So let's talk about debt. If you've got it, you've probably asked yourself the million-dollar question. What's the absolute best way to get rid of it? Should you listen to the cold, hard math, or is it better to ride a wave of pure motivation? Today, we're diving deep into the two heavyweights of debt repayment, the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, to figure out which one really gets you to the finish line the fastest. To make this all feel a little more real, I want you to meet Alex. Yeah, he's staring down a pretty huge mountain of debt, feeling completely overwhelmed. And he's asking the exact same question we are. Which path is the right one? His story is going to help us get to the bottom of this whole debate. And you know what? It really is a dilemma. This isn't just about crunching numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a fundamental choice between what logic tells you to do and what your human nature needs to stay motivated. Look, both of these strategies promise to get you to the exact same destination, a debt-free life. But the roads they take to get you there, they're completely different. Each one is built on a totally unique idea about what actually makes us stick to a plan and succeed. And that brings us right to the heart of the conflict. It's math versus motivation. One method is all about pure financial efficiency, squeezing every last penny out of the process. The other? It's all about psychology. It's designed to keep you in the fight when you feel like quitting. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Over on the left, we've got the debt snowball. Pretty simple. You list your debts from the smallest balance to the largest. Then you attack the smallest one first, no matter what the interest rate is. The goal is to get that quick, satisfying win. Now, on the right, you have the debt avalanche. This one's all about the math. You list your debts by interest rate, from highest to lowest, and you throw all your extra cash at the most expensive one first. The idea here is to save the most money possible over time. And this quote? It perfectly sums up the case for the snowball method. Dave Ramsey, the guy who made this strategy famous, always says that managing money isn't really about how smart you are, it's about how you act. He's convinced that those quick wins are what build the unstoppable momentum you need to actually see this thing through to the end.
But then you've got the counter-argument from Matt Schultz over at LendingTree, and he makes a great point. There's no magic, one-size-fits-all answer here. What works best is going to depend on your specific debts, your finances, and honestly, just what kind of person you are.
All right, so talk is cheap. Let's look at some actual numbers, shall we? We're going to dig into a study from LendingTree that ran the numbers on 4 different debt situations. This is where we see how these two methods actually perform in the real world. So, for our first scenario, let's look at something that probably feels pretty familiar to a lot of people. We're talking about an average American's debt load, a mix of credit cards, a personal loan, a car loan, and student loans, all adding up to just under $103,000. Now get ready for this because the result is pretty shocking. Take a look. The payoff time, exactly the same for both methods, 57 months. And the total interest saved by using the smarter avalanche method, it's just $29 over the entire 5 years. Yeah, you heard me right, $29 over nearly 5 years. That's, what, a few fancy coffees? In the most typical debt situation, the so-called mathematical advantage of the avalanche practically disappears. That's a huge deal.
Okay, but hold on. It's not always that close. Let's look at a different setup, because things can change a lot. What happens when you have a big, nasty credit card balance with a sky-high interest rate, like over 24%? And boom, the whole story just flips on its head. In this case, by throwing everything at that high-interest card first, the debt avalanche saves a ton of money and even knocks a month off the payoff time. Now that is a difference you can feel. We are not talking about coffee money anymore. This is almost $1,300 back in your pocket. This is where your choice of method has a real, tangible impact. So this begs the question, right? If the avalanche can clearly save you so much more money in certain situations, why on earth do so many people swear by the debt snowball? Well, the answer, like we said before, has everything to do with our brains. See, the snowball is basically engineered for human psychology. You knock out that tiny first debt, and it feels amazing. You get this little rush of victory, a shot of confidence. You feel like you're actually winning. Then you take all the money you were paying on that debt, and you roll it onto the next one. That payment grows, creating this powerful, snowball effect that just gets bigger and bigger. And you know what's crazy? There's actually a scientific name for this. It's called debt account aversion. Studies show that we humans have this weird, deep-seated desire to reduce the number of bills we have to pay, not just the total dollar amount. We get a real psychological kick out of closing an account for good, and the snowball method plays right into that instinct. So we've looked at the math, we've talked about the motivation, we've seen how it all plays out in different scenarios. So after all that, what's the final verdict? Who wins the fight between Snowball and Avalanche? Okay, let's boil it all down. On paper, the Avalanche is almost always the smarter choice. It's more efficient, it saves you more money, especially when you've got high interest debt. But, and this is a big but, the Snowball often works better in the real world because those psychological wins keep people from giving up. And as we saw, sometimes the financial difference is tiny anyway. So it really all comes down to one simple truth. The best debt repayment plan is the one you will actually stick with. So let's circle back to our guy Alex. Remember how he was at the beginning? Completely paralyzed by this huge number? But now he gets it. He understands the trade-off. He sees the difference between the pure math and the personal motivation. He's not stuck anymore. He's empowered to actually choose the path that works best for him. And that really brings the question back to you, doesn't it? Are you the kind of person who's driven by pure numbers, who wants the most efficient, logical path possible? Or do you know yourself and you know you need those quick wins to keep your head in the game? Is it the fastest path or the one you'll actually finish? The choice is yours.